Hello, my name is Jennifer Chiwela. I have a long association with ZANEC and fond memories of the work and the networking that took place from formation up to a point where I retired from active service.
Hello, welcome. I am Bishop Michael Siwale, one of the founder members of the ZANEC, in short. And at the moment, after serving for quite a while, the board honored me and gave me a title of honorary member.
I think it would be useful to even share how ZANEC was formed. I was a founder member of People's Action Forum, an educational NGO. And we happened to be working on a project for UNESCO. And around 1999, and before the Education for All conference organized by UNESCO, which took place in Dakar in the year 2000, People's Action Forum was invited to attend. But at the time, we didn't have a coalition within the country. And so we felt it was important to bring into the fore the other NGOs that were working in the field of education. And so we organized a workshop in the Pamoze Hotel and invited as many NGOs that we knew that were working in the field of education. And together we shared what the Education for All conference was going to be about in Dakar. And it was from there that we even asked for candidates that would attend. On return from that conference in Dakar, we decided that we form a coalition so that we would better be able to participate in all issues, policies concerning education in Zambia. And so that's how ZANEC came to be.
From the time when we were starting ourselves, it was more or less like narrow. The type of organizations that we were dealing with were mainly involved in providing education to communities. We have, however, noticed that there has been a dramatic change, significant, that has taken place, in the sense that ZANEC has evolved from such a humble stage to now a point where even institutions of higher learning are involved and are catered for, and they are being helped in order that they manage their affairs well and are able to graduate and contribute effectively to national development. We never thought that at one time ever ZANEC would also have a membership from the University of Zambia and also other universities and colleges. No, we were only thinking somewhere just to ensure that actually everybody received it. Because don't forget that our coming up with ZANEC was mainly to deal with, at that time in the year 2000, the EFA goal. And one of the EFA goals was actually education for all. And that is what we had at the back of our minds. And when we talk of education for all, it was basically primary and secondary, not going beyond that. But ZANEC has actually come to engage or include everybody. These other sectors, gender, talk of Yare, they were not in our program. But we have seen all these programs that have now been incorporated.
I was the third chairperson of ZANEC, and what I recall at the time, our major concerns were to get Zambia to work on the EFA goals, universal primary education, gender parity, literacy, and the quality of education. And I think one of the major points that really made me very happy was the fact that the NGOs working in the field of education became visible to government, and that we became credible partners to government, so that whenever there were issues to be discussed, policies that were being formulated, we were invited to the table to make an input. And I think that this was a big score. One of the critical areas at the time was literacy, and I know that the department that was dealing with literacy in the Ministry of Education did rely quite a bit on the NGOs that were working in this field.
Oh yes. Well, Media Network on Child Rights and Development, MNCRT, has been a member of ZANEC for 2006. And we first chaired the early childhood education subsector, which is ECCDE, Early Childhood Care, Development and Education, for about 4 years, after renewing the term. And then we became the board chairperson of the Zambia National Education Coalition, ZANEC. After our mother died, because I was basically the vice chairperson. It was a very painful takeover because I was very, very close to the chairperson died. And it was a very difficult period to push through. But we were motivated by what she did. We were motivated by her hard work. We were motivated by her dedication. We've been able to manage to do quite a number of things, putting leaders accountable, the education sector. We have been able to participate in rising budgets, been able to engage the Ministry of Education to ensure that we achieve the expansion of the education broadcasting services radio station in Zambia, so that it doesn't just cover Lusaka, but it covers the nation at large. We've been able to secure some land where we hope to build offices for ZANEC. There's no way an education coalition as big as ZANEC would be renting offices. I believe that we, like many other sectors, being a membership organization of all education players in Zambia, should have our own offices. We secured that piece of land successfully and doing some farming activities in the meantime before we further secure resources, erect something. And as a team, we've been able to, see to it that we maintain the vision, mission of ZANEC by making sure that capacity development is achieved within the coalition. And we've been engaging members, being transparent, to ensure that the views of members go ahead. I think one of the greatest achievements of our reign is to ensure that there's member participation, members are ahead. We have introduced information sessions where members can raise issues instead of waiting for general assemblies, for us to be able to continue interacting and achieve more.
So my name is Grace Manyonga Sinkamba. I was Executive Director for ZANEC from 2012 to 2018. I was recruited at the time where Barbara Chilambo was the board chairperson. I also worked under Eli Mwale as well as Mr. Kabika Kakunta. At the time I was recruited as ZANEC Executive Director, ZANEC was almost at the verge of closure because there was no funding that was coming into the organization. So we had to work very, very hard to market the organization and make it survive. I'm very proud to be associated with the new logo of ZANEC. It was during my tenure that we designed the new logo of ZANEC, and it had to take about 6 months to ensure that we work with the old logo, but also the new logo to make it popular among stakeholders so that they do not mistake the logo to a new organization. And we also had to make sure that we put systems and procedures in place for ZANEC, governance procedures, as well as in the secretariat. I think one of the successful things we achieved during my tenure of office was to make the JAR really become something that civil society voices were loudly heard in the process.
My name is Miriam Chonyeshnyama. I'm a Member of Parliament for Kafue currently, but I served ZANEC as its second executive director during the period February 2006. So over the 20 years of ZANEC's existence, I walked the journey for about 5 years. And I think I joined at a time of its critical growth stage. I think where we managed to raise, the profile of ZANEC to become a recognized and respected player in the education sector. Of course, the mandate then, which I believe is still the mandate now, was to advocate for quality education. Very much we championed, the cause of education for all, and I think we scored quite a number of successes, during my tenure, and I believe that ZANEC has still maintained its respected position as a player in the education sector. What excites me, a lot during our time, in terms of a very key achievement, is where we commissioned a study that brought out, the fact that government had not put up secondary schools since the 1990s, 1980s, I think, when the World Bank had done the last construction of schools. And when we brought out, this information through our research findings, government then embarked on a program to start putting up, secondary schools, because that, meant that a lot of pupils were having to drop out of school, especially at grade 9. I think the progression rate that time was only about 30% of pupils transiting from grade 9 into grade 10. So then we identified the challenge of infrastructure as the cause of that bad progression rate. And that's when, like I said, the construction of secondary schools, was embarked on by government. And it's good that, this particular program has continued even now under the new Dawn government, because the whole idea was to address, the pyramidal system of education, where people would start off, learners would start off in large numbers, and then the peak would, become narrower as they progressed to higher grades. So that's a very noble cause. I think that ZANEC still remains, to do and is doing. And so I think the work for ZANEC, still remains relevant, but it's made much easier now working with a government that is very responsive to the needs of the education sector. Other than that, I think during our time, we managed also to have the Education Act, revised. It had become archaic, and some process to revise it had started, but was not concluded in a long time. And at that time, with a lot of engagement, we had the Education Act of 2011 actually enacted, and which brought in and reflected a number of developments in the sector that had not, which were not part of the old act. The community schools, for instance, for the first time became legal entities, so to say, which were recognized by the act. And later on, government also started appropriating funds to community schools, following that recognition. We did quite a number of revisions to modernize the act, itself, to reflect some of the changes, that had happened. And the one to do with community schools is the one that I just, gave you as an example of. There are quite a number of, achievements, that we scored, during that time. As I said, this was the time when we gained, our recognition, also as an organization in the sector, because we could make constructive criticism and submissions, to the ministry. We were participants to the joint annual reviews of the ministry, where we would be part of the policy discussions, and also shaping what programs and activities the Ministry of Education, would indulge in. So I believe that, ZANEC is still playing these roles, and I can only urge them, to continue being relevant, to the sector, to still remain, the critical voice that offers the checks and balances to the Ministry of Education. Because while, we are saying that the environment now is much more friendly, and supportive, but I think as an NGO, that critical role still remains for it to just, check on what government is doing, which is also helpful, to government itself, because sometimes you cannot see where you are veering, and it will take an outsider, to help you keep on track with what you are doing.
I would be really happy to see ZANEC throwing all its weight on the kind of education that is being provided. It's okay to have a structure, to have all the policies that are formulated, but we need to have a look at what is actually happening in the classroom, the content, the transfer of knowledge from the teachers to the learners. That is critical, because that's what is going to get us people we can call our educated, those that are going to contribute to the future of this country. I would like to see ZANEC pushing more and more for both genders in administrative positions, so that we have role models for both boys and girls in terms of how far they can go in education.
ZANEC has been squatting, that is renting from other people. And I believe that if ZANEC had its own land and buildings, the money that goes towards rentals could be expended on other activities in order to reach out many people out there. ZANEC must also continue to recruit more members, because as you may be aware, ZANEC is a membership organization, and the strength is derived from having many members.
Going forward, I think ZANEC needs to take advantage of the policies that are in place now with the new Dawn administration, and the skills bursary support to our young people, because that is one of the areas during my time that we're struggling with. So now that the policies are providing for young people to go into skills training and sponsored by the government, I think we need to take advantage of that, especially for our girl children. They need really to take advantage of that, because they are the majority of those that are lagging behind with the required requisite skills for them to be employed or for them to start their own businesses as entrepreneurs.
It is gratifying, I must say, that ZANEC is alive and well and growing to be stronger and stronger and getting even more and more involved in what is happening according to related to education issues. We still have critical concerns in terms of education in our country. And the first one I would say is financing. And I hope that ZANEC can continue to push for a greater allocation from the budget, the national budget, to education. Because I mean, we all know that education is so critical when it comes to development of the country.
So once again, let me wish ZANEC a happy 20th anniversary and wish them all the best for the future as they continue in their endeavor of seeing that education remains a human right that is accessed by all. Thank you very much.